I'm going to ask Tom's going to make a keynote, and you can use the podium by all means.
I will do the same then.
Okay, thank you. Certainly, that was a very tough act to follow. But good afternoon, everybody. Real pleasure to be here in Athens, the birthplace of Western philosophy. More than 2,000 years ago, this city became the setting for one of humanity's greatest intellectual revolutions. It was here that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle laid the foundations for how we think about knowledge, reason, and the pursuit of truth. Socrates taught us that wisdom begins with questioning. Plato argued that beneath the world of shadows lies a deeper reality of timeless ideas and principles. Aristotle turned to observation, evidence, and logic. Together, they shaped education as the formation of judgment. This remarkable intellectual lineage, from questioning to abstract reasoning to empirical observation, did more than shape Western philosophy. It established a framework for how humanity creates, tests, and refines knowledge. That journey did not end here in ancient Athens. It continued through the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, and the digital age. And today it brings us to one of the most profound technological developments in history, artificial intelligence. If philosophy began by asking how humans think, AI challenges us to ask a new question. What does it mean when machines can participate in thinking too? Descartes, Hume, Kant, Hegel, and many others provide clues as we address this conundrum. In more recent years, John Searle, with his Chinese room thought experiment, and others have also weighed in. But fascinating as it is, and that discussion before was certainly fascinating, to ponder the nature and nature of the consciousness of machine thought, my argument today is that these questions are not the imperative for today's policymakers. Taking inspiration from Turing's 1950 imitation game and his pivot from abstract questions to observable capability, I believe the more pressing question is how humanity can responsibly deploy a new form of abundant intelligence to improve human welfare, expand opportunity, and solve problems previously beyond our reach. In that sense, I recall the very pithy observation of a European computer scientist who said, "The question of whether machines can think is perhaps as relevant as the question of whether submarines can swim." At OpenAI, our mission is simple to state, but profoundly ambitious: to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits everyone. AI is already transforming writing, coding, science, public services and learning, and mathematics. A recent OpenAI model disproved a long-standing conjecture in discrete geometry. Don't ask me how, but what it did show is that AI can do more than retrieve knowledge. It can reveal paths we have not seen and leave us with the harder human question of what to do with them. The policy challenge, then, is not simply to adopt AI quickly. It is to adopt it wisely, in ways that strengthen institutions, expand opportunity, protect young people, and leave democratic societies more capable. This is why Greece is such an important place to have this conversation. Greece is already making deliberate choices about its digital and AI future. Since 2019, it has rapidly digitized public services, expanding gov.gr from 500 to more than 1,800 services. Through the Pharos AI Factory and the Daedalus supercomputer, it is giving startups, researchers, and public institutions access to advanced AI capability. Our own data shows strong engagement with ChatGPT in Greece, including the more advanced reasoning capabilities people use for complex tasks. And this is not just about adult current users, it's also about the next generation. 84% of young people in Greece are using AI. 84%. This is the highest rate in Europe.
Thank you so much.
That tells us something important. Young people are not waiting for institutions to decide whether AI matters. They are already using it. The task now is to help them use it well. OpenAI for Greece is built on a simple principle. Countries should shape how AI is used by their people and institutions. We're working together with the Greek government, the Onassis Foundation, and Endeavour Greece across education, research, entrepreneurship, and public services. It reflects our belief that AI should not be deployed by technology companies alone, but shaped with governments, educators, researchers, civil society, and the communities it is intended to serve. Of all of the domains in which AI will matter, education is perhaps the clearest test of whether we're deploying this technology for broad human benefit. Now, every technological revolution changes the classroom. Just as the Industrial Revolution made literacy, numeracy, and science central to national prosperity, AI will shape both how teaching is delivered and what young people need to learn. Teachers will use intelligent assistants to prepare lessons, personalize support, and reduce administration. Students will have adaptive tutors to explain concepts, practice skills, test arguments, and improve their work. In turn, human capabilities such as curiosity, judgment, creativity, empathy, and resilience will matter even more. In education at OpenAI, we believe 3 tests matter most. First, AI must strengthen teachers' agency. It is the teachers who know their students and the curriculum and the context best. AI should give them more time and better tools to teach in ways that meet their students' needs. Second, it should improve learning outcomes. A student who asks ChatGPT for an answer has access. A student who uses AI to explore a problem has agency. Third, it must be safe and age-appropriate. We should be clear-eyed about the risks. These include over-reliance, shortcuts, unequal access, and misplaced trust in conversational tools. Child safety, critical thinking, and teacher support must therefore be critical. This is why I want to applaud the Greek government for the proactive approach that it is taking to AI in schools. By creating a legal framework for AI in secondary education, Greece is showing what responsible deployment can look like in one of the most sensitive settings of all. By moving first, Greece sets a powerful precedent. Now, that's the approach behind OpenAI's Education for Countries work. We work with governments, universities, and researchers on learning tools, teacher training, and evidence about outcomes, while helping countries tailor AI to their language, their curriculum, and their policy choices. Greece is one of the clearest examples of this work. Since September 2025, we've been engaging with the Greek government in a pioneering deployment of AI in education across the country. Greece is among the first countries to pilot ChatGPT education in secondary schools, beginning with teachers and schools across different regions. The rollout is now live in 20 upper secondary schools across 10 regions, reaching almost 400 teachers and more than 2,000 students. Teacher adoption is already above 85%, and the early feedback is strong. 82% of teachers say they feel more confident using generative AI, and 98% have implemented at least one classroom activity. We're also seeing meaningful gains in productivity and customization. Almost 400 GPTs, that's one for each teacher, have been created to help them design personalized learning experiences, and 82% of teachers report using custom GPTs effectively in individual assignments. Now, education is the foundation. Entrepreneurship is one way that that foundation becomes national capability. This is why the second pillar of OpenAI for Greece is entrepreneurship. The Greek AI Accelerator selected 21 AI-native companies from 240 applications, working in areas including education, healthcare, climate, and public services. Together, these programs connect learning with building. They help Greece turn its talent into new companies, stronger institutions, and long-term national capability. And this brings us back to where we began. From Plato's Academy to today's pioneering AI pilots, Greece has always understood that education is more than the transfer of information. It is the cultivation of judgment. In the AI age, that idea becomes even more important. Young people will need to know when to trust a system, when to challenge it, and how to use it in the service of human ends. The responsibility on all of us is to proceed with both ambition and care. AI can widen access to knowledge, support teachers, accelerate discovery, and help more people build. But the technology is powerful, young, and still changing. We need evidence, safeguards, and democratic oversight alongside invention. More than 2,400 years ago, Socrates is said to have observed, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." That humility inspired the pursuit of knowledge here in Greece. Today, as we build increasingly powerful forms of intelligence, it should also inspire the wisdom with which we choose to use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, over to Dan now for maybe a slightly different perspective.
Clearly more provocative. But you know me. First of all, I want to extend my gratitude to Nectaria and her team for an amazing job that she's doing, and also for the fact that it's the 30th anniversary of this fantastic event that has already created a community in spirit and a community of interests together. I will try to take from the image that Tom has already described, and which starts 24 centuries ago. In this city, a man with no wealth, no army, and no institution behind him sat in the shade of an olive grove with a handful of people who had the great luxury of time. It was here Socrates that walked the agora, asking questions that made comfortable people deeply uncomfortable. And in doing so, he taught an entire civilization that the examined life was the only one worth living. Slowly, painstakingly, he taught them to think, and I believe this image is absolutely beautiful. He changed the course of thought, armed with only one question. He left behind no textbook, but he did leave behind a method, and that method outlived many empires that were formed ever since. Actually, you can see that man, Socrates. He's behind me, and he's dressed, he's wearing a green robe. And as always, we see him caught in earnest debate. Socrates believed education wasn't about filling minds with answers, but training them to ask better questions. And Plato's academy aimed to educate people who could be trusted with power, not because they had the right answers, but because they knew how to ask the right questions. We are meeting today because that idea is under pressure, not from hostility, but from a technology that useful, that it is so rapidly reshaping what it means to learn. The most powerful educational tool in history is being deployed at scale without a clear conception of what kind of minds it is meant to produce. And this is my first point. Are we producing minds that are passive receivers of information, or minds that exercise critical reasoning? The problem is that we've raised a generation conditioned for immediate gratification, and a culture that largely encouraged it. So here's the question. How do we prevent generative AI from making us cognitively lazy? How can we prevent the quiet collapse of critical thinking? How do we use it to enhance minds rather than diminish them? 4 points I want to make before I try to answer that. First, credit where it's due. Tom's company put a potential tutor in the pocket of any 15-year-old anywhere, which no local school is able to match. That's genuinely historic. What follows isn't a critique of what OpenAI built. It's a question about what it should build next. Second, access to information, of course, is not the same thing as wisdom. Socrates called himself a midwife to thought. He delivered questions, not answers, forcing people into aporia, a state of productive perplexity. ChatGPT does the opposite. A frictionless oracle that resolves uncertainty instantly with zero effort. Remove the friction, and you quietly remove the thing that built minds capable of governing, innovating, and leading. That's not a flaw in the product. It's the product working exactly as it was designed, optimized for satisfaction over struggle. A product tuned for effortless engagement rather than deep deliberation. The question is whether as designed is what education actually needs. Is it what humanity actually needs? Third, very quickly, an evidence on our side. We are an enterprise customer of this technology. Not a critic. At our RCI Holding, when our teams leaned on AI for conclusions, they became fluent, but brittle. They couldn't defend their own reasoning under pressure. The fix wasn't less AI. It was redirecting it. Instead of asking for answers, we asked it to attack our conclusions. Find every weak assumption, every line a hostile counterpart would exploit. Used that way, AI becomes a tireless sparring partner. Teams that adopted that posture got sharper. Teams that didn't became slaves of insight they never actually owned. Fourth and last point I want to, and here's a pitch to Tom. The classical Socratic method never scaled. One philosopher, one student for long hours. Nobody can afford that model and human tutor to one human student. But AI may be the first technology in history that can put a Socratic teacher beside every student, simultaneously at zero marginal cost. Imagine a system that doesn't answer your question on contact. It asks what you already believe, surfaces the contradiction in your no reasoning, and waits. A Socratic AI can sustain the same rigorous, patient dialogue with tens of millions of students at once, in every language, and never grew impatient, never make struggling students feel small for not yet understanding. That last part matters more than it sounds. In a classroom, confusion has a social cost. The student who says, "I don't understand," in front of 30 peers, is taking a real risk. So most stop taking it. Most of us here will have suffered that feeling to some small degree. But few of us, I doubt, are young enough to have experienced, as our children do, the fear of a moment of revealed ignorance going viral. They learn to perform understanding instead of achieving it in reality. They copy the method without grasping the principle. An AI tutor removes that cost entirely. A student can be as confused, as wrong, as slow as they actually are, with no audience and no judgment, which means the productive confusion Socrates depended on becomes available to exactly the students who currently avoid it most. That's what I mean by scaling Socrates. Not a tool that hands out information on demand, but one that recreates for every student everywhere, a patient interlocutor who believes they are capable of finding the answer themselves and simply won't let them stop thinking until they do. It's buildable today, and in my closing remarks, I will provide to you the example on which I have been working. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. Thank you, both of you. We've got very little time, unfortunately, to pursue this discussion now, but I think we can take 10 minutes for a Q&A. And I guess, what we could say is that in many respects, this whole debate about AI and education just raises the same old questions, actually, about education, which is, how do we learn? How is memory different from understanding? How should we teach? What does it mean to be educated? And these should be presumably, the questions that are guiding us as principles in terms of how we use AI in education. So I'm going to come straight away to you, Tom, and ask, can there be a Socratic AI in Dan's proposal? Is it actually possible?
I believe it is possible. I believe that we're doing it. I like the idea of scaling Socrates. I think that's a nice formulation. We don't want AI to be just an answering machine. I think we all agree that critical to knowledge and to learning is that capacity to reason, to kind of be tested, to go on that journey. Some of you may be aware, if you've got your children using ChatGPT, we have something called study mode. Study mode is a deliberate kind of reconstitution of some of the parameters in the model that actually are designed to make it more Socratic. So rather when the child asks a question, it's not going to deliver you the answer immediately. It's going to give you a hint, it's going to give you a clue and some breadcrumbs, and you have to follow those to get to the answer. Now, I don't think we're at the end of the journey in terms of refining that, but absolutely, what we're not trying to do is take the friction, Dan, to use your comment, out of learning. We're here to augment kind of like critical thinking, to become a reasoning partner. And absolutely, if you've tried study mode, I think you'll find actually this is a really exciting way that we can continue to work on how we scale Socrates and that kind of one-to-one method. I mean, the one thing we do know from years of research in education is that the one intervention, which time and time again is proved to have beneficial outcomes in education, it's kind of tailored learning, often delivered in that one-to-one setting. And if AI can play a role in that, then we're tremendously excited about the opportunities.
Thank you. I'll let Dan come back on that. One thing that Tom said towards the end of your remarks was that, that the objective should be the cultivation of judgment. And I suppose many people would argue that, that is one of the primary objectives of education. Discernment, the ability to think critically, the ability when confronted with this huge mass of information to identify actually what is important and what is not important. Can AI and ChatGPT play a role in cultivating discernment, or is that to be done by somebody else?
As I said, and I promised, actually, I have a gift to all of you. I brought something tangible. If the technical team could help me to put back the slide, I will talk about it. But anyway, you have it on your tables in front of you. You have a nice postcard of
Can we show the slide on the screen as well?
Of Raphael's The School of Athens. You will have seen probably that there was also Amica inside that beautiful painting. And here you have it. This is what I believe the new generations calls a QR code. You have to scan it. It's a prompt. It's nothing more. No subscription, no app, just a page of text. Paste it in whatever AI you use, of course, especially ChatGPT, but any that has a chat window. And for that particular conversation, it stops being an oracle and starts being a midwife to thought. It won't answer your questions. It will question your answers. Try it tonight. Some of you will find it irritating. Within 3 exchanges, you feel like abandoning it.
Socrates was very irritating, but
Good. That's the aporia
Read
doing its
Plato.
job.
Yeah.
Stay a little longer than feels comfortable and see what's on the other side. And maybe we can persuade Tom to include Socratic mode directly into ChatGPT's thinking mode and build a reward system into the product itself. Extra tokens, extended free access, priority usage for anyone who uses Socratic mode over the instant answer. If the product currently rewards speed, build a version that rewards depth too. Call it a Socratic incentive if you like, one that pays for itself in users who come back smarter, not only users who come back faster. You have seen fluency in Amica. It's incredible. I mean, for me, it's mind-boggling. I sat next to Tom and we discussed it. It's absolutely incredible what happens. Do what I suggest tonight, and this stops being a gift I handed a room in Athens for one evening. It becomes a feature every model in the world ships with. Then carry Socrates in your pocket, into your classrooms, your products, your companies, your policy. I want to remind you that Plato built this academy on a wager. A society that teaches its citizens only to know things and never to question things will end up governed by people who are well-informed and very poorly equipped to lead. That is the work ahead of us, and it starts here in Athens, where it always begins.
Thank you. I'm going to let Tom respond, but I want to ask the audience a question first. So if I do a search, an AI search about Plato's Academy, who founded it, when, where, what it did, how it revolutionized learning, I will get quite a decent answer, a lot of facts and information. My question to you is whether you think that an AI tutor or a ChatGPT as a kind of personal tutor or student aid can help to replicate the sort of education that was provided by Plato's Academy in 387 BC or thereabouts. Whose hands up those who actually want to embrace the role of AI in education? Can I see your hands? Okay. I don't think it's even half the room, actually. No, it isn't.
What would the young people say, do you think, if they were here?
Okay, only people under the age of 20. There's a few.
That's
Is your
definition
hand up?
of young.
Your hand is up. Yeah, hands up. Yeah.
I think it's 100%.
I don't know if it's 100%, but maybe there's more. And just finally, is there anybody here who's got a really pressing question? Because this is an issue I think that we should bring in the audience. Anybody, especially under the age of 20, got a question here for Tom or for Dan? Was that hand, yes, over in this table here? Can we have a mic there for that young man? And please just give us your name, stand up, give us your name, and ask your question.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm Remy Papahala Bruce Bartley. I'm not going to ask the ecological one because I was taking the education topic. Because of the, now let's say, controversy between art and AI, in an education system, how do you think teachers would integrate art with AI in a lesson?
Okay. You want to take that? Dan?
Happy to do it. I think art, you have to go, and again, I could answer with a question, a Socratic question. What do you understand by art? What I understand by art is something which gives you emotion, which is passing emotion, not something which is, very well drafted, is something which gives you this vibrant feeling that it touches you deeply and it gives you strong emotions. This is what art is all about. The capabilities today to recreate music, paintings, sculptures, 3D printing, and so on, are fabulous. But do they give you that, thrill, that emotion that you would feel in front of a master's painting? This is the question that you have to ask yourself, and only yourself can give that answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, just very quickly, thank you for your question, and thank you for raising it. Look, we're doing a lot of work with creators. We think AI can be an extraordinary tool to augment kind of like the output of creators. There'll be question marks around how people react differently to kind of something which is human, something which is hybrid, and something which is not. Like, my sense is, use the tools to augment what you're already doing, to express your creativity. And I think, by doing that, then we'll see the experiment. What do people kind of want to see? How do they react to it? And this isn't a new question. There have always been questions about, do you react to a piece of art by looking at it, or do you need to know who the author is or who the painter is behind it? These are kind of deep questions that we've been wrestling with in literary criticism for a long time. But I would say that AI can be an extremely powerful way for you to augment your creativity. So I encourage you and others to explore.
I'm afraid, now we've got lots of questions, but let's take, I know why you want to ask a question, but yes, please do ask a question. Just say your name and clearly ask your question.
How was, my name is James, and how was AI thought of?
Good question.
How was AI?
Who thought of it? How did it come about? We could spend a few hours, I guess, talking about that. Yeah, Tom.
Well, James, great question. I think it hasn't just happened, I think. So this is about at least 30 years, but actually going back to Alan Turing, who I kind of mentioned in my speech, back to the kind of the 1950s, humans have been kind of like working with computers and how to build computers. And you might have, actually, you're probably way too young to know about calculators, but a good thing is when we were all growing up, calculators were the way you did maths. But before that, everyone did it with a pen and piece of paper.
I still use one sometimes,
Everyone then worried that we would stop doing thinking and we wouldn't do maths anymore because we had a calculator. But actually, the calculator just allows us to do better maths. And so today's AI is just the next kind of like step in a long series of different computers that have been built for the last 70 plus years. So it's a long story, but I encourage you to embark on that journey. Maybe ask ChatGPT for a lesson on the history of AI.